When your kids don't show respect, a calm approach to aging. Have you ever felt that your own children are starting to ignore you, or even worse, showing a lack of respect? You nurtured them with love and care, and now you're left wondering, where did I go wrong? It's painful, isn't it? But here's something crucial. Reacting with anger or sinking into sorrow won't mend the situation. Instead, there are wise steps you can take to reclaim your peace, dignity, and even respect, all without sparking conflict. In today's video, I'm sharing 8 powerful actions you can begin immediately. These proven, thoughtful approaches have helped many elderly parents heal fractured relationships, and they can help you too. Let's dive in. Insight 1. Avoid reacting in anger. Pause and reflect. When you feel disrespected by the very people you raised, the hurt runs deep. It's natural to want to lash out with thoughts like, "After all I've done for you, how can you treat me this way?" However, before letting your emotions overwhelm you, take a moment to pause. Reacting in anger usually only pushes your children further away and deepens the divide. Consider the story of Mr. Sato, a retired school teacher in his 70s whose children rarely visited, and when they did, conversation was sparse. One day, after yet another unanswered phone call, his frustration nearly got the better of him. Instead of calling his son with raised voices, he chose to take a quiet walk in a nearby park. While walking, memories of his dedicated career, the sacrifices he made, and joyful moments with his children filled his mind. He realized that his self-worth wasn't determined by their calls. That quiet moment of reflection reaffirmed that his dignity could never be taken away by their distance. This teaches us that calm introspection, not anger, paves the way for clearer communication and eventual reconciliation. Insight 2. Rebuild your life and find new purpose. One of the most empowering responses to feeling ignored is to shift your focus back onto yourself. Rather than waiting for your children's validation, start reinventing your life by finding a new purpose. A fulfilled, energetic parent radiates an aura that is hard to overlook. Take Mrs. Davis, a widow in her late 60s. After her husband passed away, her children's visits dwindled, and phone calls became brief, until they almost stopped entirely. Initially devastated, Mrs. Davis decided one morning that enough was enough. She retrieved a packet of seeds from her cupboard and began gardening. What started as a small hobby soon evolved into a passion. She joined a local gardening club, made new friends, and even shared her harvest with neighbors. Her newfound joy and activity brightened her days so much that her daughter eventually remarked, "Mom, you sound so happy these days. What's your secret?" That call sparked renewed interest and more frequent visits. Mrs. Davis's example shows that when you live a rich, purposeful life, you become far more magnetic, even to those you hope will show you respect. Insight 3. Express your feelings wisely. When your children seem distant or dismissive, the urge to confront them with harsh words can be overwhelming. Instead of saying, "Why don't you ever call? Don't you care about me?" choose to express your emotions in a manner that invites connection rather than conflict. Consider Mr. Johnson, a retired carpenter who hadn't heard from his son James for months. Every day he sat by the window waiting in vain for his son's arrival. Though the silence stung rather than resorting to anger, Mr. Johnson penned a gentle, heartfelt letter. In it, he wrote, "James, I miss our conversations and your presence. I'm always here and proud of you." A few days later, James called, admitting he'd been caught up with work and family, unaware of how deeply his father missed him. That one letter led to regular calls and even weekend visits. This example underscores the power of kind, non-accusatory communication in opening the door to understanding and reconnection. Insight 4. Set healthy boundaries. Respect is a two-way street. While you naturally wish your children would honor you, it's equally important to honor yourself by setting clear boundaries. Allowing disrespect to continue unchecked sends the message that hurtful behavior is acceptable. Think of Mrs. Thompson, a retired nurse in her 70s. Her son, Daniel, had become increasingly demanding, visiting only when he needed money, help with his children, or an ear to vent to. Mrs. Thompson always obliged, hoping her sacrifices might eventually earn his appreciation. But when Daniel's requests grew unreasonable, she gently yet firmly said, "Daniel, I love you, but I'm not available today. I have plans for myself." Initially taken aback, Daniel eventually began to understand that his mother's well-being was just as important as his own needs. By setting boundaries, Mrs. Thompson not only preserved her dignity but also improved her relationship with her son. Remember, establishing limits isn't about pushing your children away. It's about safeguarding your own emotional health and teaching them how to treat you with respect. Insight 5. Lead by example. Respect is earned through actions. If you desire that your children treat you with respect, demonstrate what that looks like through your own behavior. How you interact with others, including your children, can profoundly influence their conduct. For instance, Mr. Ramirez, a retired factory worker and devoted grandfather, noticed his adult children had become increasingly disengaged during visits, distracted by their phones and quick to leave. Rather than reacting with bitterness, he maintained his warmth and kindness, greeting them with sincere smiles and engaging in genuine conversation. He never mentioned their infrequent visits or criticized their behavior. Over time, his consistent display of respect and understanding led his children to visit more often, call regularly, and even share more of their lives with him. Mr. Ramirez's example illustrates that when you lead by example, respect is contagious. Insight 6. Stay financially independent. One of the strongest ways to earn lasting respect from your children is by remaining financially self-sufficient. Although it might seem natural to assume that your children will take care of you as you age, total reliance on them can breed tension and even resentment. Financial independence commands respect and admiration. Consider the story of Mr. and Mrs. Brooks, a retired couple in their 70s who downsized their home and simplified their lifestyle to comfortably live on their retirement savings. By carefully managing their finances and avoiding unnecessary debt, they maintained a level of independence that left no room for dependency. Their children, initially indifferent to their financial prudence, soon began seeking their advice on budgeting and retirement planning. The Carter's example shows that when you take charge of your own financial well-being, you affirm your dignity and encourage others to respect your self-reliance. Insight 7. Forgive but never undermine your self-worth. When your children hurt you through neglect or disrespect, forgiveness can be one of the most liberating acts you can offer yourself. Holding on to resentment only burdens your spirit. Forgiveness enables healing and forward movement, but it doesn't mean diminishing your own value. Take Mrs. Mitchell, a retired artist and mother of 2. Over the years, her daughter Claire became increasingly distant, rarely calling or visiting. The sense of abandonment was deeply painful. One day, Mrs. Mitchell decided to let go of her anger by writing a letter to Claire. "I forgive you for our distance. I'll always love you." Yet she also chose to reclaim her dignity by returning to painting, a passion she'd long neglected. Joining an art group and showcasing her work revitalized her spirit. Eventually, Claire noticed her mother's renewed joy and reached out, not out of guilt, but admiration for her resilience. Mrs. Mitchell's journey reminds us that while forgiveness frees us from past hurts, it is crucial to never lose sight of our inherent worth. Insight 8. Build a new circle of companionship. Feeling ignored or disrespected by your children can lead to isolation, and relying solely on them for emotional support can be disheartening. To counter this, it's essential to cultivate a fresh circle of companionship. Forming meaningful relationships with friends, neighbors, or community groups can alleviate loneliness and provide a rich, supportive social life. Consider Mr. Franklin, a widowed man in his 80s who once depended on his children for emotional sustenance. As their visits dwindled, he felt increasingly isolated until he decided to join a local seniors club. There, he discovered a world of new friends, regular coffee gatherings, book clubs, and even group walks in the park. These fresh connections filled the void left by his children's absence, reducing his feelings of loneliness while enriching his daily life. Mr. Franklin's story shows that by expanding your social network, you not only lessen emotional dependence on your children, but also create new avenues for joy, support, and companionship. Conclusion. Navigating the challenges of evolving relationships with our children as we age isn't easy, but by following these 8 insights, you can regain peace, dignity, and respect while honoring your own needs. From pausing instead of reacting in anger to setting healthy boundaries, leading by example, staying financially independent, forgiving without diminishing your self-worth, and building a supportive new circle of companionship. Each step is a move toward healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Thank you for watching. If you found these insights helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit. And before you go, let me know your thoughts. Comment 9 if you're ready to embrace these steps, or 0 if you're just beginning to reflect on these changes. Remember, your worth is timeless. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.